Sometimes, the loudest heartbreak doesn't come from shouting or tears, it comes from the quiet decision to walk away. This is the story of a man who discovered his wife's betrayal, and instead of fighting, he chose silence. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. If you ask anyone about us back then, they'd say Ava and I were the perfect couple. The kind people posted anniversary pictures about and wrote long captions for my forever, my rock, my best friend. I used to believe it too. We met in college, during a rainy evening that still feels like a scene from someone else's life. She was in the library, huddled over a stack of economics textbooks, her hair tied up messily, a pen tucked behind her ear. I was the guy pretending to read engineering formulas, but really watching her reflection in the glass window. I didn't say much at first, just small talk, awkward smiles, the kind of conversations that don't mean much until they suddenly mean everything. Before long, she was part of my routine. Coffee before class, walks after lectures, long texts that stretched into the night. Ava had this way of talking about the future like it was already waiting for us. Our first apartment, the kind of couch we'd buy, how she wanted 2 kids, maybe a dog. And I believed every word. We built our life slowly, brick by brick, promise by promise. I got my first job out of school, and when I proposed to her, I remember her eyes filling up with tears as she said yes. I can still hear the trembling in her voice when she whispered, "You'll never regret this, Arthur." For a long time, I didn't. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. She'd make jokes about my terrible cooking. I'd tease her about how she could never find her car keys. Our fights were small, about laundry, spending, or how I sometimes forgot anniversaries. But they always ended the same way. Her arms around me, her voice soft, saying, "We're okay, right?" And every time I'd nod, because I wanted us to be okay more than I wanted to be right. Love can be quiet that way, not dramatic or loud, just a gentle rhythm that lulls you into believing it will last forever. I think the first crack appeared the night she came home smelling like someone else's perfume. She laughed it off, said it was from hugging a friend at work. I didn't question it. You see, when you trust someone, your brain learns to explain away the things that don't make sense. That's how love protects you. That's also how it blinds you. Weeks turn into months, and I started noticing small changes. Her phone never left her side anymore. Late-night meetings that stretched past midnight. Laughter that didn't include me. But even then, I didn't want to believe anything was wrong. Because sometimes, pretending is easier than facing the truth. We had dinner one night, just the 2 of us. She was glowing, her hair done perfectly, her smile warm and effortless. She told me she was going on a girls' weekend, something about clearing her head, spending time with her friends. I smiled, told her she deserved it, even handed her my credit card so she could treat herself. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "You're too good to me." I didn't realize she meant it as a confession. The morning she left, the house felt unusually peaceful. She packed her bag, humming softly, her perfume filling the air. When she came to say goodbye, she hugged me tightly, longer than usual. "Don't miss me too much," she joked. I smiled. "I'll try not to." She laughed, that laugh that used to be my favorite sound in the world, and walked out the door. I stood by the window watching her drive away, not knowing that I was watching my peace leave with her. The rest of the day passed quietly. I did some work from home, made myself lunch, even watched a movie we'd been planning to see together. There was a kind of calmness in the air, the kind that comes before something breaks. Looking back now, I realized that day was a goodbye disguised as an ordinary morning. There were no warnings, no arguments, no signs big enough to stop what was coming. Just the illusion of peace. Just the calm before the storm. That night, I walked into our bedroom and noticed her laptop on the table, still open. It blinked once, a soft ding, like it was waiting for me. I didn't touch it yet. Not then. Because in that moment, I still believed in her. And belief, that's the most dangerous form of blindness. So I turned off the lights, lay on our bed, and listened to the rain outside. It was steady and gentle, the kind of rain that makes you feel safe. But deep down, something inside me whispered that peace like that never lasts. Not when love starts keeping secrets. It was around 9 p.m. when I heard it, that soft, familiar chime from Ava's laptop. At first, I ignored it. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe an email or one of her online shopping cards calling her back. But it came again, a second chime. Then a third. I tried to focus on the TV, but my eyes kept drifting back to the desk. Her laptop sat there, lid slightly open, the glow from the screen lighting up the room in a faint, ghostly hue. Curiosity is a quiet thing. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And that night, it whispered too loudly to ignore. I walked over slowly, like I was moving toward something sacred. When I sat down, her wallpaper greeted me. The two of us smiling on our wedding day. We looked so happy, so untouched by the kind of pain that was seconds away from unfolding. Then the screen blinked again, a message notification. It was from a group chat titled, Weekend Madness Woman Dancing Medium Skin Tone Fire. I clicked it. And that's when everything inside me started to crumble. The first thing I saw was her name, Ava Redheart. Then the messages, laughter, memes, inside jokes, and then pictures. Her and her friends at a resort, drinks in hand, smiles wide. At first, it looked harmless, just girls having fun. But then, buried between the laughs, were messages that didn't belong in a marriage. Girl, you're glowing. He's got you smiling like that? Don't let Arthur find out, face with hand over mouth. And then Ava's reply. Arthur thinks I'm with the girls anyway, faced with tears of joy. He won't suspect a thing. I froze. For a long time, I just stared at the screen, reading that line over and over, as if maybe the words would change if I looked long enough. They didn't. Then came the photos, the kind that left no room for denial. Her sitting by the pool, a man's arm around her waist. Another of them dancing too close, too comfortable. One taken in a hotel room mirror, her hair messy, his reflection standing behind her, half-dressed. My throat went dry. I remember my hands trembling, not from anger, but from disbelief. The kind of disbelief that makes your body forget how to breathe. You know what's strange? The mind doesn't scream right away when it breaks. It goes quiet, like a sudden stillness before an earthquake. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring, scrolling, sinking. The messages went deeper. Her friends teasing, cheering her on, calling the man Mr. Weekend. Ava laughing along, writing things like, Arthur's too boring for this kind of fun, or, he still thinks I'm his little angel. That one hurt the most, because I did think she was my angel. I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe an hour. Time doesn't move the same way when your heart is cracking open. Eventually, I started taking screenshots, not out of revenge, but instinct. Maybe part of me wanted proof that I wasn't imagining it. Maybe I needed to hold onto the reality that my world wasn't as perfect as I believed. Every click of that screenshot button felt like driving a nail into the coffin of our marriage. Click. Her messages. Click. Her photos. Click. Her laughter that no longer belonged to me. By the time I was done, my desktop was filled with pieces of a truth I never wanted to know. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the ceiling fan. I sat back, staring at the glow of the screen. Her face smiled at me from the wallpaper again. That same wedding photo. For the first time, I saw it differently. The same smile that once made me feel lucky now looked like a mask. I turned off the laptop, and the room fell into darkness. But her laughter, it didn't stop. It echoed in my head, twisted, distant, cruel. And then one line replayed again and again, like a curse. Arthur's got competition now. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there in the dim light of our living room, watching the clock tick. Every second stretched like an hour. Every memory felt like a lie. I thought about the first time I said I love you. The day I promised her forever. The nights we stayed up talking about growing old together. All of it, every soft word, every tender touch, suddenly felt like a story I had read but never truly lived. Because the woman I loved wasn't mine anymore. Maybe she never really was. Around 3 a.m., I went to our bedroom. The bed felt too big, too empty. Her scent was still there, faint, sweet, familiar. I lay down and stared at the ceiling, wondering how something so beautiful could rot so quietly beneath the surface. No tears came, just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort, it haunts. That night, I realized something I'll never forget. Love doesn't always end with a fight. Sometimes it ends with a message notification and a quiet man staring into the dark, realizing that everything he built was a lie. Soft piano fades out. A single heartbeat sound echoes, then silence. Morning came, but it didn't feel like morning. The sun rose, but the world around me stayed dim. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing, trying to remember what it felt like to wake up happy. Ava had texted me sometime during the night, a heart emoji, a casual, good night babe face blowing a kiss. Dot. She must have sent it after she was done with whatever she was doing. I read it, and for the first time, I didn't reply. That was the moment I knew I was done. Not angry, not vengeful, just done. People think heartbreak explodes. They imagine yelling, throwing things, breaking mirrors. But real heartbreak doesn't shout. It whispers. It sinks. It wraps around you so quietly that you don't even fight back. I stood up, walked to the closet, and started packing my things. One shirt at a time. One memory after another. The smell of her perfume still lingered in the air, sweet, sharp, and now suffocating. Every piece of clothing I folded carried a ghost of a moment we once shared. A trip, a laugh, a night spent dreaming about forever. I folded them all into the same bag. When I reached for my wedding ring, I froze. It caught the morning light, small, simple, silver, the symbol of everything I thought was unbreakable. I slipped it off. For the first time since our wedding day, my hand felt light, empty, but somehow free. I placed the ring on her nightstand, beside the framed photo of us smiling in front of the ocean. She had her head on my shoulder in that picture. I remember how that day felt, warm, peaceful, effortless. But looking at it now, it just felt like a goodbye I didn't know I'd already said. As I packed, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. There was nothing left to fight for. People always say the hardest part of leaving is walking out the door. But they're wrong. The hardest part is realizing you've already left, long before your body moves. I walked around the house one last time. Our photos, our notes on the fridge, her favorite mug on the counter. All of it suddenly looked foreign, like I was walking through someone else's life. I paused at the doorway of the bedroom and whispered, "Thank you for the memories." It wasn't sarcasm. It was closure. The bathroom door was closed. I could hear the water running, her morning shower. She was home. She didn't know. I stood there for a second, bag in hand, heart in silence. For a moment, I almost knocked. Almost said something, a question, a goodbye, anything. But what would I have said? That I saw everything? That I knew? That I forgave her? None of those words could fix what I saw. So instead, I turned away. The scent of her shampoo drifted down the hallway. That same lavender scent she always wore. It hit me like a wave of memories. The first night we moved in. The way she'd fall asleep beside me. Her laughter when I used to tickle her just to hear it. But love doesn't die in a single moment. It fades slowly, like perfume in an empty room. By the time I reached the front door, my heart was quiet. No more shaking. No more doubt. I left my keys on the table. Took one last look around. And then I walked out. No note. No confrontation. No goodbye. Just silence. The world outside felt strange, too bright, too alive. Birds were singing. Cars passed. People smiled as they walked past me, unaware that someone among them was quietly braking. I got in my car and drove. Nowhere specific, just away. Away from her. Away from the noise. Away from the man I used to be. The city blurred past my window. Buildings, trees, strangers. But all I could see was her face, her betrayal, her laughter with someone else. I turned off the radio. I didn't want music. I didn't want distraction. I wanted silence, because silence was the only thing that didn't lie to me. I ended up at a small motel outside town. Cheap, quiet, hidden. The kind of place no one would think to look for me. The receptionist asked how many nights I'd be staying. I said, I don't know yet. And I meant it. That night, I sat on the motel bed, staring at the ceiling. The room smelled of detergent and loneliness. I placed my phone face down on the table. It buzzed again and again, but I didn't look. I didn't want to hear her voice. Not her excuses. Not her apologies. Not her lies. Instead, I whispered to myself, this is how peace begins, not with answers, but with distance. Hours passed. Her calls turned to texts, then to silence. And in that silence, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: control. For the first time, I wasn't reacting. I wasn't pleading. I wasn't chasing. I was choosing. Choosing to leave. Choosing to breathe. Choosing myself. When midnight came, I stepped outside. The night air was cold and still. I looked up at the stars, small, distant, untouchable. And I thought about how love is like that sometimes. You think it's close enough to hold until it burns out. That night, I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't go back. Not even if she begged. Not even if she cried. Because walking away wasn't weakness. It was survival. The morning after I left, my phone was already full of missed calls. Ava, over and over again. Her name flashing on the screen like a heartbeat I didn't want to feel anymore. I let it ring, then stop, then ring again. By noon, the messages began flooding in. First, they sounded sweet, confused, soft, gentle. Babe, where are you? I woke up and you weren't here. Did something happen? You're scaring me, Arthur. Please call me. I stared at them for a long time, but I didn't reply. Not out of pettiness, but because silence was the only truth left between us. By evening, the tone changed. Her messages became frantic, then defensive, then angry. I can't believe you'd just disappear like this. If you wanted space, you could have just said so. You're being childish. Childish. That word lingered in my chest like a bruise. The same woman who had laughed in another man's arms, now calling me childish for walking away. That's when I realized something. People like Ava don't fear losing you. They fear losing control of the version of you they can manipulate. And I was done being that version. That night, my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't Ava. It was my brother, Ryan. Arthur, he said softly. She called me. I didn't answer right away. The silence between us stretched, heavy and careful. She said you're missing, he continued. Missing? I repeated quietly, almost amused. Yeah. She sounded worried. I sighed. She should be. Ryan waited a moment before speaking again. Talk to me, man. What's going on? I told him everything. Not with rage. Not with tears. Just the truth. Every screenshot. Every photo. Every message. The night. The silence. The leaving. When I finished, he didn't speak for a while. I could hear him exhale slowly through the phone. Damn, he whispered. I knew something was off about her. But I never wanted to be right. Ryan was the opposite of me. Loud, straightforward, the kind of man who spoke his mind even when it cost him peace. But that night, he didn't try to convince me to go back. He didn't say maybe it was a mistake. He just said, I'm proud of you for walking away before you destroyed yourself trying to fix her. Those words hit deeper than I expected. Because for the first time, someone wasn't pitying me. They were acknowledging my strength. He offered to come over. I told him no. I needed the solitude. But before we hung up, he said something I'll never forget. Arthur, you don't owe her a reaction. Don't let her chaos pull you back in. Silence is your loudest answer. He was right. So I kept my silence. Over the next few days, Ava's panic grew louder. She called my office, my mother, even old college friends. The story she told changed every time. To some, she said I'd had a breakdown. To others, she said I was cheating. And to a few, she cried, painting herself as the abandoned wife. But the truth? The truth sat quietly in my screenshots folder, untouched and undeniable. One night, after another barrage of missed calls, I finally sent a message. Not to her, but to a few close friends and family. If Ava reaches out, please don't interfere. Here's why. Then I sent the screenshots. No explanation. No commentary. Just proof. And just like that, the noise stopped. Because once truth enters a room, lies tend to leave quietly. Days turned into weeks. I stayed in that small motel, keeping my world small and silent. I'd wake up, take long walks, eat little, think a lot. I wasn't healing yet. I was just existing. And that was enough. Ava tried a few more times. Her tone shifted again, from anger to guilt, from guilt to desperation. I made a mistake. It didn't mean anything. Can we talk? Please. I read every word, then deleted them. Because forgiveness doesn't always mean going back. Sometimes it means letting go without hatred. One afternoon, Ryan called again. How are you holding up? Quiet, I said, but alive. He laughed softly. That's a start. He asked if I wanted to come stay with him for a while. And for the first time, I said yes. I packed my things, left the motel, and drove to his apartment on the edge of the city. When I arrived, he opened the door, pulled me into a hug, and said, "Welcome back to peace." I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I finally understood what peace felt like. The absence of lies. That night, as I lay on the couch, my phone buzzed one last time. Ava again. Just one message this time. "You'll regret this, Arthur. One day you'll see what you lost." I stared at it for a moment, then turned off my phone. Because the truth was, I didn't lose anything. She did. I didn't lose a partner. I lost a liar. And in that loss, I found myself. The motel room was small and quiet, the kind of place where no one asked questions. Arthur had been staying there for a few days now, living in the stillness. The blinds were half open, letting in thin slivers of light that cut across the carpet. He'd grown used to the hum of the air conditioner, the ticking clock, and his own silence. He didn't expect to see her again. Not this soon. Not ever, maybe. But when he heard the knock, soft at first, then desperate, he already knew it was her. For a long moment, he didn't move. He just sat there, staring at the door, letting the silence test his resolve. The knocking grew louder. Then came her voice. "Arthur, please. I know you're in there." Her voice cracked, part pleading, part fearful. He finally stood, every step toward that door heavy, deliberate. When he opened it, Ava stood there, eyes swollen, makeup streaked, her once perfect composure gone. She looked smaller, fragile. The woman who had once commanded every room now trembled in the hallway, like a shadow of herself. She tried to smile, but it came out broken. "You just left. You didn't say anything. You scared me." Arthur said nothing. He stepped aside silently, allowing her in. She hesitated, as if unsure whether she was welcome, then entered. The room suddenly felt smaller, crowded with everything unsaid. She turned to face him. "Why did you just disappear like that?" He met her eyes, his voice low and steady. "You already know why." Ava's lips trembled. "Arthur, it wasn't what you think. I swear, it got out of hand. I made mistakes. I didn't mean to hurt you." He watched her struggle to find words, her hands twisting nervously. But he didn't interrupt. He just listened, calm, detached. "I was lonely," she continued, tears welling. "You were always so busy, always working, always trying to make life perfect. And I felt invisible. It wasn't about love, it was just a stupid mistake." Arthur's eyes softened for a brief second. "A mistake," he repeated quietly. "You planned weekends. You lied for months. You laughed about it with your friends. That's not a mistake, Ava. That's a choice." She covered her face with her hands. I know I was wrong. Please, don't talk like this. Don't make it sound like it meant nothing to you. I'm still your wife. We can fix this." Arthur took a deep breath, the weight of years pressing down on his chest. "I spent nights thinking that," he said softly, "wondering if maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I didn't love you enough. But then I realized, love isn't supposed to hurt like this. Not like this." She stepped closer, reaching for his hand, but he pulled away. The gesture broke her completely. "Arthur, please. I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. Just don't give up on us." He looked at her, truly looked, and saw the woman he once loved, buried beneath guilt and regret. But something inside him had already closed. It wasn't anger anymore. Just clarity. He spoke quietly, almost tenderly. "You know, I used to dream about growing old with you. I thought we'd build something unbreakable. But I was building alone. You already walked away long before I did. She shook her head, sobbing now. Don't say that. I love you. Arthur smiled sadly. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done it. Silence. The kind that cut deeper than any scream. Ava's sobs filled the space for a moment, but even those began to fade. He turned away, gathering his jacket from the chair. You should go, Ava. She looked at him helplessly. And that's it? After everything? You're just going to walk away. He paused by the door, then said quietly, I'm not walking away from you. I'm walking back to myself. Her tears came harder now, but Arthur didn't turn back. She lingered a moment longer, hoping he'd change his mind, say something, stop her. But he didn't. Finally, she walked out. The door clicked shut behind her. Arthur stood there in the stillness once again, his breath steady, his heart strangely calm. The pain was still there, yes, but beneath it, a strange kind of peace began to take root. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty doorway where she had stood. The silence that followed wasn't lonely anymore. It was final. It was freeing. For the first time in a long time, Arthur allowed himself to exhale. And in that quiet room, he whispered, not to her, but to himself. Some endings don't need words, just silence and peace. Weeks passed, then months. The noise of Ava's world, the panic, the drama, the endless apologies, eventually faded into silence. And for the first time in years, Arthur didn't mind the quiet. He embraced it. He moved into a small apartment by the coast. Nothing fancy, just a single room with white curtains that fluttered gently in the breeze. The walls smelled of fresh paint and new beginnings. Every morning, the sunlight poured through the window and painted the floor in gold. It was the kind of place that asked for nothing but peace. At first, the loneliness felt strange, like standing in an unfamiliar room where even your own heartbeat sounded too loud. But slowly, he began to rediscover the beauty in solitude. He started going on long walks. He'd stroll along the shore, watching the waves kiss the sand and pull away again, a rhythm that felt like life itself. The ocean never asked questions, it just listened. He found work with his brother Ryan, helping with small construction projects in the city. The physical labor grounded him, the feel of concrete, the weight of bricks, the sound of hammer and steel. It reminded him that he could still build, not just houses, but himself. Ryan noticed the change too. You look lighter, he said one afternoon as they packed up their tools. Arthur smiled faintly. Maybe because I finally stopped carrying what wasn't mine. At night, Arthur would cook simple meals, rice, grilled fish, maybe tea if the night felt cold. No TV, no music, just the hum of the fan and the whisper of the ocean through the window. Sometimes he'd catch himself remembering the laughter, the road trips, the small inside jokes. Memories that once burned now only glowed softly, like dying embers. He didn't hate Ava anymore. The anger had dissolved into something quieter, understanding. He realized that forgiveness wasn't about letting her back into his life. It was about freeing himself from the grip of pain. One evening, as the sky bled orange and purple, his phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. When he answered, a trembling voice said, "Arthur, it's Ava's mom." He froze. "Hello, ma'am. I heard what happened between you and Ava," she said gently. "She's not doing well. She's broken. She keeps saying she wishes she could turn back time. I just wanted to ask if you could maybe talk to her? Help her heal." Arthur looked out the window at the ocean, waves crashing softly. He sighed. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "but some lessons are meant to be learned in silence. I hope she finds peace, ma'am, but I can't give her what I've already buried." There was a long pause. Then the old woman whispered, "You're a good man, Arthur. Don't let this world make you hard." "I won't," he replied softly. "Thank you." When the call ended, he stood there for a long while, letting the silence fill the room again. It didn't feel heavy anymore, it felt right. Weeks later, he wrote one final message to his circle of friends and family. Short, simple, honest. "Thank you all for standing by me. I'm okay now. Life moves on. I don't hate anyone. I'm just choosing peace." He deleted her number after that. Blocked her on every platform. Not out of bitterness, but out of closure. He realized that not every chapter needed to end with forgiveness or reunion. Some simply needed to end so something new could begin. One evening, he took a drive along the coast. The wind played with his hair, and the scent of salt water filled the car. He parked by the ocean and stepped out barefoot, feeling the cold sand beneath his feet. The sky stretched endlessly above him, vast, quiet, and open. He walked to the edge of the water, watching the waves shimmer under the dying light. It hit him then, the beauty of being free. No guilt, no anger, no expectations. He whispered to himself, almost like a prayer. Maybe losing her wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning of finding me. The wind carried his words away, soft and steady. He sat down by the shore as the sun disappeared beneath the horizon. The world around him went quiet, except for the rhythmic song of the sea. For the first time in a long time, Arthur didn't feel the need to fix anything. He didn't need revenge, closure, or validation. He just needed the calm, the stillness, the freedom of simply being. He smiled faintly and whispered, "Some endings don't need words, just silence and peace." And with that, the screen fades to black. The sound of ocean waves lingers, soft, eternal, healing.